I want to give a quick disclaimer before I allow Shadow the Lion Queen to narrate this. This is a Sonic.exe prequel creepypasta after both Sonic.exe and Sally.exe. This is a rewrite that's made better since others who wrote it have put cliches way too much, which is cringe in all honesty. So here's a better version of Rouge.exe and with no plushy cliches either. With that said, enjoy. Shadow the Lion Queen, cue the intro, and begin narrating.
Growing up, I was a huge fan of Sonic. I remember watching this one anime called Rouge.exe when I was a teen. The series is pretty good nonetheless. My favorite character in Rouge.exe and from Sonic in general was Rouge.exe, a sassy yet sneaky thief character from the Sonic franchise, who always plans to steal the Master Emerald. I personally thought she was pretty cool. Every day when I returned home, I'd go ahead and watch episodes of Rouge.exe on my computer, since I have most of the episodes downloaded on my computer and can watch them through Media Player. However, as I scrolled through the episodes on my folder, I noticed a strange file that I don't remember ever downloading before. It was a .exe file simply titled Rouge.exe. I raised my eyebrow confused. I tried deleting it, but only got an error message. I tried deleting it again, but I kept getting the same error message, as if the file had a virus or something. After a couple more tries, I tried deleting the file, but only kept getting the same error message pop up as my software refused to remove the strange file. This had to be some hacker virus since it remained stuck, and it was undeletable. So I gave up trying to delete it, and decided to double click on it. I waited for a couple seconds, and suddenly it loaded up. My screen cut to black for a few seconds before the Sega logo appeared. Oddly enough, this file was the same classic Sonic game. However, the Sega sound effect that played sounded very low-pitched. It felt a bit creepy and gave me a bit of a shiver. After that, my screen went to black and another pop-up came. It looked as if the game was processing to the intro, but only said error, file not found intro, and was given the option to press continue startup. I continued to start up and I got another pop-up reading ready for round 2, but then 3 scratch marks appeared and contained 3 Roman numerals, so this basically read, ready for round 3. Then the game started up, but however the music in it sounded low-pitch and rather disturbing, followed by the low-pitched Sega sound playing 3 times. The background and the title looked unsettling, and the sky was dark and the water was blood red. The title looked rusted. The Sega logo had Sega 666 at the bottom of the right screen. What also caught the corner of my eyes were the 2 characters in the background, Tails and Knuckles. They looked unsettling to look at. Tails' fur was grayish color, and his eyes were black with 2 glowing red dots. They looked like they were bleeding. Knuckles had similar state as Tails, but his fur looked a bit crimson, and his eyes were also black with 2 glowing red dots. And on the middle of the screen was Rouge.exe. Her design looked exactly like the design from Rouge.exe anime. The entire title screen, though, looked way too freaky for me to look at any longer, so I decided to hit start. The screen flickered with static before cutting to black for a couple of seconds, and I was given the title level, and not the perfect Act 1. The level felt strange. The background was pitch black and the ground looked normal, so I noticed a silver ring, but it was glitching in and out. By the silver ring through, I saw what looked to be blood on the ground. I was very confused, and I also realized I was playing as Rouge here, but figures she is playable in a very strange ROM hack. I walked up to the silver ring, and just as I touched it through, my screen froze, and I looked up to be Amy's sprite, but looked rather creepy. I then received an error failed to respawn character Amy, and was given the option to restart. I had restarted was greeted by the same low-pitched Sega sound intro, except the Sega intro looked to be glitched up. Then I got another error file not found intro screen, but then it said successful connected intro from memory. I had the option to play the intro. Curious, I played the intro, and what I saw was interesting. It was Sonic X cutscene of a fight between Knuckles and Shadow, and it would be the last for a couple of seconds. Then, Rouge has appeared, then saying, "Are all the redheads as temperamental as you?" Before the cutscene ended, I was back to the startup screen again, as then the error said operative memory corrupted, connection to intro from memory lost, and it allowed me to continue the startup. I was rather confused and a bit creeped out, but tried to shrug it off and hit continued startup. I was then brought back to the title screen, and Tails and Knuckles were gone. Amy was now on the screen, and her appearance was even though disturbing. One of her eyes was stitched shut, while her other eye was pitch black, and one of her arms also appeared to be missing. I couldn't look at that any longer, and I hit start, the screen flickering to static again before fading to black. I was then presented to the level title called Kind and Fair Act 1, and what I almost sent me to tears, I saw what looked to be Cream lying on the ground. Most of her was ripped to shreds, and next to her blood were on the spikes. Poor Cream, I mumbled to myself. I walked up to her, and my screen yet again froze, and her sprite appeared behind me, much similar to Amy's sprite appearance. Another screen popped up saying error, failed to respawn character Cream. I was then given the option to restart. I hit restart, and I was yet again presented with the Sega logo. This time the low pitch of it sounded distorted, and the logo was even more glitchy. I then got another pop-up screen where it successfully connected another intro from memory again. I played it, and I was met with another Sonic X character cutscene of another showdown between Shadow and Knuckles. It was played for a couple of seconds before the screen came up again saying that the intro part was missing. Then it would successfully connect again, recovering the original source. I hit continued intro, and it continued where I left off. Soon after, I see Shadow collapse in pain, and I hear Rouge speak, but the language sounded Japanese. Thankfully, though they had English subtitles, Rouge would be saying the following. I was wrong to underestimate this Echna. He has managed to extract the limiter. She then said, such determination. Before the startup screen came up again, knowing that the cutscene now ended, I started up the game again, and I then see Cream on the left side of the title screen. Her appearance looked upsetting to look at. One of her eyes were missing, and a black substance dripped from her eyes. Her fur had a dark purple and crimson red look to it. Seeing that Cream like that in such a state almost had me emotional, but I kept the tears back and continued. Another flick of static before my screen cut to black. I then got the level title that only showed a blank Act 1. Literally just a blank title with lines, that's it. The level had a very dark feature to it and almost hard to see, but I managed to see very clearly on what was going on here. I was then greeted with the blood on the ground, and I saw Sonic along with various other characters. Tails, Knuckles, Dr. Robotnik, Amy, Cream, and Sally. Sonic's eyes, however, were pitch black, and as I walked up to the blood, my screen yet again froze, and not only did I see the sprite of Sally appearing, but Sonic's eyes suddenly glowed, showing into red dots. I then got another error saying, failed to respawn character Sally. At this point, I felt my heart skip a beat, and I was shaking slightly. Suddenly, I was brought back to the level again, and to my horror, I noticed the wall slowly collapsing on Rouge. I panicked and moved her around to make her jump. I tried everything, but the walls were moving. They stopped. Were getting closer on her, and followed by a few flickering red static. Suddenly, the walls stopped moving, and it was clear I was stuck. Red static flickered a few more times before suddenly Sonic appeared behind Rouge and lunged at her. Flashes of Sonic's sprite began popping up all over the screen as loud static played, and there were sounds of screaming being heard. Sonic's eyes were pitch black and had two red dots glowing on them, followed by a wide grin on his face. My screen then cut to black. I then got the error failed to respond character Rouge screen. At this moment, I had a mental breakdown. My anxiety went up through the roof as I never had felt this scared in my life. At that point, I wanted to shut off the game, but even if I did, it refused. I was stuck, and it was clear that the game won't let me exit out. I took a few minutes to calm down and have a drink before I hit the restart button. The Sega logo came up again, sounding low-pitched and way more distorted this time, and it was now looking very glitchy. I was then met with a different screen. It looked like a back and forth conversation between Rouge and Sonic, except Sonic's name was Sonic.exe. The conversation would go on until I get another Sonic X cutscene, followed by a scene I actually remember seeing, though it was a sad one. Seeing the death of Molly in that scene. I actually remember tearing up when I first saw that scene. It almost felt as if the game knows which scenes I recognize and which scenes that hit me. The cutscene then ended with the back and forth conversation between Rouge and Sonic resumed, and the conversation went on and Rouge would then say no 3 times, before her name changed to Rouge.exe, and errors began popping up non-stop before I ended up getting the blue screen. I was then brought back to the title screen and the music suddenly changed and it sounded like a high-pitched violin theme. The sky and water looked pitch black, and the tile now having a darkish purple to it. Rouge now had a very disturbing design that made me froze in fear. Her eyes were pitch black with 2 glowing red dots. Black substance was dripping from her eyes. Her left ear now chipped and her clothing now a darkish purple to it. I tried again to exit out of the game, but it would still not let me, so I had no choice but to hit start again. The sounds of static flickered and my screen went to black. I then got to the level Hill Act 1, and I was in Green Hill Zone. However, Green Hill Zone had a bright red look to it, and everything looked red, and the music sounded like it was playing backwards. It looked almost as if it looked red and felt like hell. Rouge then just stood there. I tried pressing the key to make her move, but I couldn't move her, and her dialogue box only showed the word error, other than the number of lives. After a few seconds of looking at the hellish look of Green Hill, Shadow showed up and slowly walked over to Rouge, as if confused at what she was doing there. Suddenly, as he stopped inches close to her, the screen flickered again. It flickered a couple times, and Rouge, who slowly got up before turning over to Shadow, her gaze meeting his, and then she pulled out a gun and fired at Shadow. A loud gunshot played that literally made me jump as the screen darkened. I then got the error failed to respond character Shadow screen, seeing that it was very disturbing. Thing yet again. Rouge actually just shot Shadow, murdering him in cold blood. I had a slight panic attack again, and I tried my best to calm my nerves. After some deep breaths, I hit the restart button. The Sega logo appeared once more. Its low-pitched, distorted sound now sounded even worse than the logo, was now looking worse, almost as if it's unreadable now. I then was brought back to the screen where it gave me the option to play another Sonic X cutscene. It played the exact same one from the first time, and the fight between Shadow and Knuckles, except this time Rouge's shadow came into the screen and froze, as the sound got louder, almost to where it could easily damage the speakers. I was then brought back to the title screen, Rouge still having those black eyes with red dots. I hit start, but as I did though, the screen froze. Rouge was now looking at the screen. I was jumped by this and felt like she was looking directly at me as she bared her fangs. I then, after a couple of seconds, she launched at the screen. A loud, piercing, low-pitched scream played out, followed by red static appearing again, and a demonic laugh was heard. My screen then went to black again, and text appeared reading, "Do you really think you can control me?" It read, "Do you really want to play again? You're next." Those were the lines that also said my first name, and I refused to put it out for the sake of my privacy. Then a flicker of static came again, showing a split second of Sonic's black eyes, and now 2 glowing red dots before my computer then crashed. How did the game know my name? I just sat there shaking. My eyes filled with tears, and I rebooted my computer and go check my files. The Rouge.exe file was gone, as if it deleted itself after I finished playing it. I decided to close out and shut off my computer. I spent the rest of the day feeling traumatized and unsettled by what I experienced, and I don't think I'll be able to forget this anytime soon. I'll have nightmares occasionally where I watch Sonic X, but only see that Rouge isn't the same, seeing those black eyes and red dots on her. I like to wish I was dreaming or hallucinating, but I'm not. And all I say is please, if you're downloading files of your favorite series, whatever it's Sonic X or something else, be careful on what you download. Thankfully my computer hasn't broke from the said virus, but it still scares me. It's why I am now careful on files I download, as I'm paranoid and worried I'll download another virus that will put me in an unescapable situation.
What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Ms. Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, please stay pretty.